den hier an. Wir machen das Video als nächstes. Wir haben letzte Woche ein Video von ihm angeschaut und er sagt ja immer, Corporate Sales Jobs, Six-Figure, irgendwo in Tech ist er, Tech Sales, und er macht das so, als halt hast du seine 200k oder so mit Pokémon-Karten. Und der hat immer gesagt, dass er nicht raussteppen will aus seinem Tech-Job, weil es so schwer ist, wieder reinzukommen und er hat sich da was aufgebaut und ba. Und jetzt, und letzte Woche war ja noch die Doku von, ich weiß nicht, wann die Release war, wir haben es letzte Woche angeschaut, die war ja irgendwie vor kurzem, war ja noch diese Doku von Modern NBA, wo er das gesagt hat, er kann sich nicht vorstellen, das zu quitten und das irgendwie Fulltime zu machen. Und vorgestern hat er ein Video hochgeladen, I just quit my 200.000k plus Job in Tech. Boah, der liebt das, ne? Dieses in Tech. Fehlt nur, dass da irgendwo Corporate steht. Und will jetzt Fulltime Karten machen. Mal schauen. Bin sehr gespannt. Da gehen wir mal zurück.
And that was actually one of the main things I wanted to talk to you about today, which is that I have made the life decision to pursue that full time.
What? Oh my gosh, Ricky.
So it's all not couldn't have foreseen it. If you asked me 6 months ago, I would have said there's no way. But now it's.
Er hat ja vor kurzem noch gesagt, there's no way. Also, ich glaube, wir sind alle gestunlocked.
Just like, I have this maybe once in a lifetime opportunity to do my own thing on this like very whimsical thing that I have enjoyed since I was a kid, and it's been a tough decision. I've loved working with you, just to be super clear on that. Like,
Yeah, no, say you've done a phenomenal job here.
the calculation purely became
Bisschen
like,
Glazen muss sein.
which one am I more likely to regret on my deathbed? Like doing this or not doing this? And the answer was very clearly not doing this. So obviously, I couldn't know how you guys were gonna react for sure, but like I said, if you want me to help with interviewing my backfill, I want to make sure everything is set up for success so that it like the business just moves straight forward without me, and we can cheer each other on into the sunset.
Sehr korrekt.
I've loved Pokemon since I was a little kid. It's like the one
so
nostalgic
Duko-Vibe-mäßig.
thing that
Okay.
I've completely shamelessly carried with me into adulthood. But we'll come back to that. I wanted to share a little bit of how I got here. You know, I've always been a pretty assertive person, but I've also always struggled with fully believing in myself. Like there's pretty much always been that voice that's saying, you know, you're pretty good, but probably not quite good enough. Right? It's definitely part of what drove me to like try to be the best sales rep at every company I've worked at. Like there was enough belief there to think I might be able to pull those things off. And sometimes it happened, and sometimes it failed. And sometimes it failed relatively badly. And the anxiety or self-doubt that comes from the times that didn't go how I hoped, it was just enough to drive me to make safe choices when I could have been bolder. It convinced me to bite my tongue hundreds of times when I could have spoken up or advocated for something I felt was right, but was too afraid maybe to truly claim it. And then a few months ago, I was thinking about this and I realized that the common denominator of every regret in my life is that I wasn't assertive enough or aggressive enough or bold enough. And the times that I did have conviction, like that I would marry my now wife, or that I wanted to manage my life in a way where I would trade some of the present for a lot of extra.
Try these better cold calls. Oh, okay.
And then I wanted to use that extra future to maximize time and energy I could spend lifting up others and working with senior dogs and being part of pulling dogs out of kill shelters. Like that is one of my major whys for why I do any of the things that I do. But the times where I made those decisions where I was like, this is definitely how I feel, I'm serious about this thing, I just couldn't deny, I guess, that conviction and decisive action was the common denominator in all of the best decisions of my life. So if I can't have conviction when everything actually makes sense on paper, and it involves a franchise that I've loved consistently since I was like 4 or 5 years old, it's something that in a lot of ways I've done since I was a little kid. I've told the story before. I sold my first card on eBay. It was a Japanese Neolugia. I pulled it in the backseat of my parents' van.
Boah, der weiß noch, welche Karte er erst verkauft hat? Das weiß ich leider nicht mehr. Also, also ich weiß, das ist das erste Pokémon-Produkt war, was ich verkauft habe. Und zwar war das Base Set Sword and Shield.
And I sold it on.
Oh, warte mal. Base Set Sword and Shield. Das war ein Display. Warte mal. Ist das das Set? Genau. Genau, die Box. Nicht die Battlebox, sondern das Display. Hier, 36er Display. Das habe ich damals im Laden gekauft, bei uns in München. Die hatten 2 Displays und ich weiß nicht, war richtiger Good Guy. Das war gerade so richtig am Abgehen. Und ich bin hingegangen und die hatten 2 Displays. Und ich habe gesagt, und er hat mich gefragt, willst du beide haben oder willst du nur eins nehmen? Und die waren, ich glaube, 140 oder so UVP. 120 oder 140. Und die waren damals schon bei Card Market für, ich weiß nicht, auf jeden Fall über 200. Und da habe ich gesagt, nee, ich nehme nur eine, die andere soll wer anders nehmen. Und ich habe diese Story dann allen erzählt, so, Familie und Freunde, und alle haben gesagt, hey, warum hast du nicht 2 Boxen genommen, nochmal 80er Profit oder so. Aber ich habe nur eine genommen und ich habe die dann nicht auf Card Market verkauft, sondern eBay Kleinanzeigen, weiß ich noch. Aber die erste Karte, die ich online verkauft habe, Single-Karte, weiß ich leider nicht mehr.
On eBay for like $20 so that I could buy more packs. That was probably somewhere between 1999 and 2001. Like the universe has sort of been setting me up for this for arguably my entire life. If I'm not gonna have conviction about that, then when will I?
Muss man auch mal mutig sein.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the 6 ways that I knew I was ready for this, and
Oh, jetzt bin ich mal gespannt.
Is so obvious that it probably doesn't even bear mentioning, so I'll just say it up front, which is that I had a lot of energy and passion for this. I was more energized by it than I was by my career. It's also all of you, the community, the people that are watching that say nice things, that tell me how the videos have affected them in positive ways, whether it's their collecting or their vending business or whatever. So those things like gave me a sense of purpose that I can't say I've ever gotten from my corporate career, though I generally liked my corporate career just fine. So as I go through this,
Corporate
I just
gesagt,
wanna mention, like,
er liebt es,
this
dieses
is
Wort zu
what
sagen.
made sense for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's what makes sense for you. Maybe you're not considering this at all, and you just are curious and enjoy this type of content. I've watched plenty of quit your job type content, even when I had no intention of doing it. Anyway, I just wanted to be clear that these are just the 6 things that told me I was ready. And again, I'm just speaking as me, right? As a relatively analytical and relatively low risk tolerance sort of person, here's what made me feel ready. So number 1 thing is my wife's support, and sort of 1A, 1B is our financial situation. So you shouldn't do anything. If you have a spouse that you're actually dedicated to, you should not do anything without their blessing, essentially, right? So I distinctly remember summer of 2025. It's probably around July. I don't remember what the channel was doing. Maybe the channel was probably approaching, is this somewhere in the 20,000 subs range would be my guess. And I remember looking over at my wife while I was editing video instead of like spending real time with her. And I mean, we were on the couch together, but it wasn't like, I wasn't really paying much attention to her specifically. And I remember looking over to her and I said, hey, if you ever want me to spend less time on this thing, just tell me, and I will. Like, nothing's more important than our relationship. But I just want you to know that, like, I'm gonna really double down on this over the next few months. Like, I feel like I'm building something here. I don't know what it is. Like, is it a side hustle? Is it a business? Is it nothing? But I felt like, you know, I just needed to kind of give it a real go. So that's what I told her. I said, let me know if you feel like I'm neglecting you, basically. And I will change immediately. But giving you the heads up, clear heads up right now that I'm gonna be spending actually even more time on this over the next few months. And she was like, I totally get it, I see it, and like, you should do it, you should go for it, and I think we'll be fine, but I appreciate you saying that, right? So anyway, I'll get into a lot of the details of how we became comfortable with that, obviously, but the bottom line is, when I eventually told her relatively recently now that I felt ready to make this move, she was like, okay, you know, just sort of keep me posted, like, I'm down. She's doing really well at her job, by the way. That's another thing, like kind of on the 1B financial thing. We can't retire. We're not like that well off, but we've saved and invested 50-60% of what we've made since we were like 22. So that put us in a position where we could do something that feels a little bit more risky, because at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out for a couple of years, we'll be fine. And then the other piece of that, obviously, is that I'm in the US, and health insurance and yada yada, like that would be pretty expensive if we weren't working, but my wife works.
Ich habe mich gerade gefragt, ob er aus Australien oder USA kommt, aber ja, USA.
And she is a very high performer there. So essentially our downside's protected. Like, what risk were we actually taking, as long as I don't like make some really, really like active blunder, right? As long as I don't put half of our net worth in Pokemon right at the peak and then it drops by 50%, like that would take a little bit of time to recover from. My wife wouldn't be happy with me about that, but she knows that that's not how I do things anyway. So she said, look, it's easy to believe in you on this, right? If it was anyone else, I might feel a little bit more nervous and skeptical about it, but it's you. So that was the first thing and one of the most important things, right? So the number 2 thing was doing a lot of experiments, and many of those experiments worked. One of those experiments was introducing sponsors to the channel. Around the beginning of last year, I probably had about 5,000 subs at the time I started putting my first sponsors in. And I was actually surprised, right? Aside from the sort of financial thing, especially as the channel grew, I got to partner with amazing companies with products and services that I actually already used or believed in. And I got to sort of advocate for those to you all. And then you all would be kind enough to like trust me and use my codes or whatever, which leads to affiliate revenue, by the way. So you kind of double dip on that. And then I hear from folks, I hear from you all that like you loved it, right? And so one of those is Dragon Scale Supplies. And I know you all love them too, because I get notifications all the time that you're buying their bumpers. Thank you for using my code or Yama10.
Oh,
but I'm going to show you a few new things.
da habe ich mir auch was jetzt vorgenommen in nächster Zeit. Ich bin da auch gerade mit ein paar Herstellern am Reden. Ich wollte auch meine eigenen Bumpers ausbringen. Sehr cool.
I want to show you are these worm shards. These are really nice acrylic display stands in different colors, color matching.
Also Bumper cool, unten ist, ich meine, ist okay eigentlich, ne, wenn ich das jetzt so anschaue. Könnte man eigentlich auch machen, okay.
Display stands like this are a awesome way to display your slabs. And if you're anything like me, you struggle with aura farming. So if you want 10,000 aura automatically, you might go for this Orochi Vault. This case holds up to 8 slabs per layer on a dual layer display, so you can hold up to 16 slabs. Super portable, great for displaying things at home, or if you're going to a trade show. If you've got 16 bangers you want to show off, this is the way to do it. And the last thing I want to show you here is the Worm Prism acrylic cases. They fit both modern Pokemon booster boxes and ETBs. The Worm Prism is made from a more premium, thicker material than traditional acrylic cases. So as you can probably tell from this video, really, really high quality. Actually the nicest looking acrylic boxes I've personally ever seen. Check out dragonscalesupplies.com. Really, really nice stuff. But again, this is one of those experiments that worked. I started introducing sponsors. I really wanted to make sure I was partnering with companies that I could actually stand behind. I hear all the time how much you all like this stuff. So a big part of being able to quit my 9-to-5 to do this is sponsors like this and people like you using the code. It actually helps me pay my bills and makes this possible. So obviously that was experimentation. I made the video about how to succeed as a card show vendor. And it wasn't even the strategy at the time. I just wanted to make an educational video. It was actually a lot of work, but that video still gets tons of views, and then people go into the description and use my affiliate links. So now I make like a few $100s a month of Amazon credit, which, you know, pre-tax, like you do get a 1099 form for the tax year and stuff, but still, like, that video,
Sagt man nicht nein.
it's
Sagt man
almost
nicht
that
nein.
video alone probably makes me a few $100s a month, and so I'm like, oh, well, there's an interesting experiment. I've never really revisited making a video that was like very heavy on the affiliate strategy. I probably will, because that unintentionally works, but that's an example. Like I try these different formats, different titles, different thumbnails, different lengths, right? Even a video like this one, I don't think I've ever made a video like the one you're watching right now, where like it's sort of half cinematic, half I just walk through the neighborhoods near my P.O. box and talk to you. Other things like travel vlogs, right? The Japan vlogs, the Europe vlog didn't work as well as I thought. The card shop ones worked better than I thought, right? Portland and Denver have done well. I'll probably just do more of those over time as I travel almost anywhere. If I have a free day, I'm probably just gonna rent a car and go to the card shops and make a video for y'all. Like, I enjoy doing it. Clearly those videos have done well. So experiments that worked. I think it was around February, so right around a year ago when I was hitting 10K subs and I was doing a stream, and I invited Jar Chomp Collectibles to come on the stream with me if he would. And he pretty quickly replied to me on Instagram and said, I'm down, just send me a link, whatever, right? And he did. And then about 4 months later, he reached out to me and said, hey, I kind of want to do a live stream podcast. I don't think anyone's doing anything like what I'm picturing, and I want you to co-host it with me if you're interested. And I was a little nervous about it. You know, maybe almost like a little bit like imposter syndrome. Like, particularly that first episode, I was really anxious. Like, I was nervous the whole time. I wanted to, honestly, if you go back and watch that, please don't. I was like dizzy the entire episode. Because I was just like nervous. I wanted it to go well. And anyway, but I'm so glad I said yes to it, because that, like, I honestly, saying yes to that sort of changed my life. It's actually one of the things that brought me here because it connected me with so many awesome people like Jake, Bulbasaur, Danny Phantump. I mean, like a lot of the people that I looked up to in this space, even well before I was posting any videos on YouTube about Pokemon cards. You know, kind of concurrently with that, I stood up a website. I started offering coaching through like my bug in my eye channel memberships. On my website, I said.
Ich stelle mir aber auch anstrengend vor, der geht die ganze Zeit diesen Berg hoch und will einen Vlog machen. Man merkt, er ist nicht aus der Puste. Warum setzt er sich nicht kurz hin und redet?
Time there, and I started getting like once a week. People would just find the website. I barely advertised it. I think I talked about it in like 2 videos, and about once a week, I was like, I almost was running out of time, and I went to Jake and I was like, dude, I think there's like real demand for this, and no one's really offering like sort of personalized education on how to create content in the niche or how to get started as a vendor or whatever it is. He and I, coming from similar corporate backgrounds, was like, you might be a good candidate for this, man. Let's give it a try. And we had no idea. Was it going to be 3 people? Was no one going to pay for it? Would it be 1,000 people? It was about 100 with really minimal marketing. We talked about it in like 2 streams. We've kind of name dropped it. I think I did it kind of an ad for it in 1 video. So like, again, truly, like we have not pushed it, in part because the second we announced it on the pod, we had like 50 applicants. And we found 4 people that were a great fit. 3 of the 4 of them signed up for our highest priced, sort of the most involved package. And it's been awesome. Like, we've loved doing it. I think if you reach out to any of them, they would tell you, I'm pretty confident because we're about halfway through the program with most of them. I think they would tell you that it's been really valuable for them. So anyway, all those things were experiments. Every single one of those things accumulated to give me the confidence that like, oh, there's multiple revenue streams there. It's not as like, you know, if you're just relying on selling Pokemon cards and you go through like the, you know, whatever the Pokemon winter we had back in like October through December, if that's your sole source of income, it was hard to sell Pokemon cards for a couple months there. But if you had a YouTube channel and affiliates and sponsors and other things, other ways to pay your bills, then it's sort of like I could sleep easier at night. Oh yeah, and then my buddy JT started vending with me. I reconnected with him through Pokemon after like 15 years of not talking. And then I've essentially hired him part-time now as part of the team. And that allowed us, just last week, we did our first ever live stream sale, sold over $8,000, had an amazing
What not ever?
So it really was genuinely fun. Like, everything about that exceeded my expectations. Again, another situation where I was like, only 20, like watch 20 people are gonna show up and we're gonna sell like $1,000 of cards and it'll be fine, but it's not gonna be that interesting. And it was just 200 people were there, like almost 120 to 190 people the whole time, selling cards nonstop, 54 orders. It was just so much fun. Funny enough, that was the day I submitted my notice, so it didn't really factor in, but it's just another example of like, you try something, it works or it doesn't work, you tweak it, you try it again, it works better or it doesn't. And that iteration process, the saying yes to things that you're really scared of, all of that has sort of led me to this. It's been a huge part of it. Okay, number 3, career stability and re-entry.
Oh, da bin ich
Probably the
gespannt.
number one thing that I was
Weil er hat ja immer gesagt, dass es übel schwierig ist für ihn, wenn er jetzt einmal rausgeht aus seinem Corporate Sales, Six-Figure, Tech-Job, wenn er da rausgeht, kommt er sehr, sehr schwer wieder rein. Jetzt bin ich mal gespannt, was er dazu sagt.
nervous about when I started considering whether this was a possibility. In fact, I said it with a lot of conviction in the Modern NBA video that I was a part of, where I was like,
Wo wir uns unterhalten haben über das Modern NBA-Video, boah. Da hat er es noch gesagt. Boah. Starkes Video. Ne? Haben wir uns letzte Woche angeschaut. Ist auf YouTube online.
portrayed in that video very accurately as like the savvy part-timer who's like has this big opportunity cost if he leaves his tech career and AI leaves him behind. Like it's dangerous to leave tech right now. And
Hat er gesagt.
Some truth to
Hat er
that,
gesagt.
But the reality is, the more I thought about it, the skills that I've developed and the skills I would develop by starting a business and growing it to 1 or 2 million annual revenue or whatever this might be.
Yeah.
I think 1 to 2 million is actually really possible this year in terms of revenue anyway. The skills that those sorts of experiences bring you to, even if the business fails. I've heard venture capitalists say that they won't even invest in founders that have not failed before, which I think is really interesting. Like there's so much you learn from trying to start a company and failing that there's actually like immense value to that too. And so I just decided
reden wir über
the
Risikokapital,
skills
Digga.
that I'm talking about here, if 2-3 years from now I need to go back into tech to make a living or whatever, that AI is not going to replace those things. Like I'll actually be better for it. My resume will be more interesting for it. again, for a while, I had talked myself into this idea that that would be like total career death and I would never be able to go back into tech. And I was like, actually, maybe the worst case scenario is that if I have to go back in a few years, that it's like not a great job market and I have to go in at like a more junior level and take a pay cut. But like, it's not like I would be unemployable suddenly because I took 2 years or 3 years away to own every part of a business. I never owned P&L. I submitted a profit and loss sheet statement to my CPA. It's my first time doing that. That's a cool business experience. So no matter how it goes, I just decided, like, there's no scenario in which I make so little that I can't like cover my part of me and my wife's household expenses. I think there's just, I mean, it's basically a 100% chance that I can at least, you know, fulfill that part of my duty to my household. Anyway, once I kind of got past that concern and really reframed it as like, I would be better for, again, I guess the one thing is that I had to sort of, you know, word of the year, I had to feel conviction that I could go into like an interview in a few years from now. And rather than saying, well, I quit my tech job after 11 years because I was just really excited to go be a Pokemon user.
Ich hätte irgendwie Lust, da hätten wir vorher vielleicht mal so einen Bingo-Chart machen müssen, so, ob er sagt, Tech, Sales, Six-Figure, Corporate. Also, das ist keine Ahnung. Aber
YouTuber.
in jedem
Totally
Video.
failed. That message is not, that's not going to be a very attractive message to a recruiter. But
Weiß ich gar nicht, ich glaub, die finden das gar nicht so bad, oder? Wenn du sagst, hey, guck mal, ich habe das jetzt, keine Ahnung, 11, 13 Jahre, was hat er gesagt? Hab den Job gemacht, hab einen guten Job gemacht und dann habe ich mir nebenbei was aufgebaut und dann dachte ich mir, guck mal, das ist jetzt mittlerweile so weit, ich will es einfach tryen. Und dann sagen wir mal, er macht das 3 Jahre oder 2 Jahre und dann klappt es nicht. Ich glaube nicht, dass es irgendwie negativ auffällt, wenn man sagt, man hat irgendwie 3 Jahre versucht, irgendwie selbstständig was aufzubauen, Fulltime.
owned a D2C multimedia and e-commerce business that did
Oh,
1.5 million.
so sage ich das jetzt auch. D2C E-Commerce Business mache ich. Ja, okay.
Year of revenue, and I manage contractors and employees and
Ich sage immer, wenn Leute was machst, dann sage ich verkaufe Pokémon-Karten. Hört sich eigentlich cool an, aber D2C.
reinvestment decisions and P&L and advertiser relationships, and I created an organic fund, whatever, you get what I'm saying. Like, you could corporatize a Pokemon business.
Corporate haben wir's.
It's just a normal small business in a kind of a very whimsical vertical. Editor Ricky here. I had a couple things that I forgot to mention when I was on that walk that I just wanted to add in and just kind of popped to mind over the last few days. I've been fortunate to build really strong relationships with some mentors in my career, and one of them is the chief revenue officer at a very, very fast growing AI startup. I followed him to the current role that I have now, that I'm leaving now, but he has since gone on to lead sales at another company, and he has begged me to go work for him. Jonathan, if you're watching, I love you. I love working for this guy. He's a great leader and a genuine friend. When I was debating this choice, something that he told me was, dude, as long as I'm in tech, I will find a way to hire you. So if the idea of not being able to come back later if you needed to is holding you back, don't let that be a reason you're held back. So that's another thing I just wanted to call out. Like, not everyone's situation is going to apply there, but I have some connections and network. I'm also leaving my current job on really good terms. And part of the reason for that is there's no reason not to, but 2, I've liked working at this company just fine. If I wanted to go back to work for this company or some of these leaders when they go to other companies in the future, if I ever wanted to do that, having good relationships with leaders who would hire you again into a company that you would probably be interested in again, another one of those sort of safety net or parachute things that I factored into this decision. So that confidence around career re-entry was
Weiß ich gar nicht, ob man das so unbedingt machen muss. Also klar ist das immer cool, einen Plan B zu haben. Und ich glaube, wenn man sich zu sehr auf so Alternativpläne konzentriert, verliert man ein bisschen den Fokus und den Drive für den Hauptplan. Ne? Also ich meine, bei ihm ist das was anderes. Der hat eine Frau und vielleicht ein Kind. Ich weiß nicht, ob das von ihm seine Nichte war oder so ein Kind. Klar musst du dann immer irgendwo ein bisschen Sicherheit geben können. Aber ich glaube, das Beste, was man machen kann, ist einfach all in zu gehen mit der Sache, die man versuchen will und keinen Plan B zu haben. Glaube ich. Vielleicht bin ich noch ein bisschen zu jung und zu naiv. Aber ich glaube, wenn man sich da irgendwie einen Plan B macht und in den sich so gut redet, ja, und wenn das nicht klappt, dann kann ich ja das und das noch machen. Ich glaube, da ist man irgendwie zu wenig locked in, glaube ich, wenn man sowas hat.
Was the, very related to that, the thought around the value of a moderately successful outcome. Hi. Which is to say that, let's say it only goes a little bit well. It's a medium case scenario or lower medium case scenario. What happens? What does that look like? Well, the medium to lower medium case scenario
is that I still pay my household expenses, but I don't make enough to save anything. But I'm not creating any drag on my wife or our savings from a financial standpoint. Emotionally, I have an amazing time working on a Pokemon business for a few years and pursuing my dreams. And if it just goes low or medium, I can live with myself in the future saying, I gave it a try. It didn't go quite as good as I thought it might, but I gave it a try. And as I just said before, failing after a few years, ultimately failing to build a huge business, but like still keeping afloat a good small business with organic marketing and creating funnels and different products and projects. And again, all those skills are like, we're not anywhere close to AI being able to replace like true go-to-market and business leaders and relationship builders and storytelling. AI is so bad at storytelling. So I feel like there's actually a lot that is defensible about a business like this, even if like the financial outcome is not that good. Number 5 was social proof. So as I got to knowing more and more people that were doing this, I started meeting people that quit, like Jake, who quit their corporate jobs, and they've been having tons of success. And, you know, without getting into anyone's specific numbers, like a lot of the people that really went in on Pokemon last year, particularly if they had a content component, like they had an amazing time, they had a ton of fun, and they did really well financially. Y'all, it's sunny out now, apparently. When I left the house, it was overcast, and now I'm sweating. So I'm going to take this hoodie off. That's much better. I was talking about social proof. So yeah, I mean, that's a pretty straightforward one. Obviously, that's the kind of thing you want to see to give you confidence. It's very, very human. Like people, you know, you probably make very few decisions in your life that came with 0 recommendation from somebody else, or that you didn't look up a single online review. Like other people having a certain experience is a good precedent for whether you might be able to have a similar experience if you so wish. So the social proof was a big one. And that really takes us into the last point here, which is maybe one of the biggest, aside from like my wife's support and getting over the anxiety of career reentry if I needed to later, is asymmetrical risk and the current opportunity. I've been thinking a lot about asymmetrical risk lately. And so specifically asymmetric risk is this idea that what you stand to gain is much bigger than what you stand to lose. So like going back to my earlier example about spending $1,000 on an experiment, you might lose 10 hours and $1,000 if it goes badly, but if it goes well and you make $10,000, then it's like a huge, huge upside compared to the downside. So you should like almost always bet on those things. They have outsized return relative to the downside risk. So again, I don't think I'm extremely risk averse. I'm fine with taking certain levels of risk, but I'm not like a huge risk taker. And so when I'm evaluating, like assessing this risk, the upside versus the downside here, again, I've already kind of told you a lot of this, right? The upside is I have the time of my life. I have the experience building something in a vertical that I love with people that I love. And it just feels nothing like work the whole time. Like it's gonna be hard work, but like, you know, it doesn't feel like work in a lot of ways, in a lot of places. And maybe in addition to that, I financially, maybe I make 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times as much as I ever could have in terms of salary from working any normal corporate job. So like, that's huge from a financial standpoint. That's a huge asymmetric upside, right? I guess just to put it very simply, best case scenario, I have the time of my life. I never have to go back to working for anybody else. I retire in 8 years, and it's the best chapter of my professional working career. And then I just get to spend the rest of my life rescuing dogs until I die. That's what I stand to gain. And then what I stand to lose is, you know, again, like maybe I make 50 or 100K less for a few years, and then I have to go back into tech. But it was still a great time. But it turned out it was harder than I thought. That's not that bad, right? That downside, the bad scenarios are just not that bad. And the good scenarios are completely life-changing and world-changing. And when you're faced with an opportunity like that, how do you not take it?
Starkes Video. Starkes Video.
Big shout out to all of our channel members.
Shoutout. Finde ich cool, dass er einen Schritt wagt, weil er ist ein crazy Typ. Wir können uns mal andere Videos von denen anschauen. Der hat crazy analytische Videos, wo er so richtig so einen geilen Breakdown macht. wie er seine Einkäufe bewertet und sowas. Ein super, super professioneller Typ. Cool, dass der im Space ist und von dem kann man, glaube ich, crazy viel lernen. Macht brutale Videos. Schauen wir uns wahrscheinlich in Zukunft vielleicht mal was Analytisches von dem an.